Okay, students. So if you are at this point, you've already done the coin, the keychain, um, and now you are going to try to do a cell phone stand. Here's some examples of cell phone stands. They're basically made up of the stand itself, a sort of a support. There's a shelf that the cell phone sits on, and there's a couple of sidewalls. That's the basic shape, and then you can add a graphic to it that would etch out kind of in the same way you did the keychain. Or you can cut out different things and kind of create cutouts, or you could do even more elaborate things. I'll show you how to do some of these more elaborate designs. So then I guess the first step is to go ahead and get into CorelDRAW and launch a new CorelDRAW page and get to that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up the size of your workspace. So the workspace is going to be 6 inches by 12 inches. So open up a new page and then do 6 inches and the first one and 12 inches next. 6 by 12. Here's what a finished one looks like. So I'm going to show you how to kind of create these shapes. That's the basic design. Once you've done that, I'll show you how to do these kind of more elaborate types of designs, how you can create cutouts and add graphics and things like that. So I've got some notes here to kind of help remind me how to, what sizes things will be. So the first thing we're going to want to do after we've created a space that's 6 by 12, so your screen should kind of look like this, we are going to want to create the stand itself, which is 4 by 7. So size of stand is 4 by 7. So let's go ahead and draw a rectangle. Oops. And scale one out. And just type in 4 and 7, enter. So 4 by 7. Now we need a couple of slots. And so the slots are these things here. Right there, there's one there, and there's one there. These two slots, that one. So let's go ahead and create those slots. So the slots are 0.15 by 2.5 inches. So 0.15 by 2.5. So I'll go ahead and draw a rectangle. I'll make it 0.15 by by 2.5, 0.15 by 2.5, hit enter. And I've got that first slot. I'm going to need 2 of those, so I can make sure that's selected and do Control Copy, Control Paste. And I'll just kind of arrow this one out of the way. All right, so one slot is going to go kind of in this area, and the other slot is going to be rotated, so I have to rotate this 90 degrees. And that one's going to go kind of down in this area. Now we want those slots to be centered and 0.75 inches from the edge. So the first thing we want to do is we want to center it. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. And I'm going to grab it by this X here. Actually, I'm going to grab it by this node here. I'm going to snap it onto the edge. And I'm going to move it up and down until it tells where the midpoint is. And let's see, where's the midpoint? There, whoop, I just had it. There it is, midpoint. So now it's midpointed onto there. And now I just need to move it a set distance. And the distance I want is, I've got it centered, I want it 0.75 inches from the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of draw it out there. Now what's 0.75 inches? How do I measure that? Well, I'm going to go to this little tool here below the A, below the text tool. Click on that. And I want to have this, the one that says horizontal and vertical dimension. So what I do is I go to this edge and I click with my left mouse and I drag across until I get to this other edge. And I let go of my left click and then I click it once to place it. It says it's 0.56. So the distance from that edge to this is 0.56. I want it 0.75 inches. So all I need to do is use my select this object, and then just arrow it out. And you'll see that the distance will grow until I get to 0.75. And now it's exactly 0.75 inches from the edge, and it is centered in the middle of that space. So I've got that dimension. I go ahead and hit the delete key, and delete that dimension. Same idea here. I want to center it, so I'm going to grab it from the center there. I'm going to drag it on until I click it onto midpoint right there. And then I'm going to use my arrow key. I'm just going to arrow it up. I know if I use the arrow key, it's going to stay in its alignment. And then I'll just kind of place it somewhere where I think it roughly is. I'm going to go ahead and get my dimension tool. I'm going to dimension that from edge to edge. And then I'll let go and click. it says 0.36. Again, I want it to be 0.75 inches from the edge. So I'm going to select this object, and I'm just going to arrow it up until this distance becomes 0.75. That was way off. 0.7. Oh, now, if it can't get between 0.75 and you just can't get it, and it's 1/100th of an inch off, just go to the next closest one. I'll just do 0.74. 100th of an inch is going to be so small I won't really notice it. So that's fine. And then I'll go ahead and select that and hit delete. All right, so the two slots are centered and there's 0.75 from the edge, so that's done. Now I need a hole for the cord. That is this little hole right here so that the charging cord can slip underneath there. So I'm going to create that shape. So that's easy, it's just a rectangle. So 0.5 by 0.3. So let's draw a rectangle. I usually just kind of draw it in white space here. I don't draw it inside my design, I draw it out in the side of it, and then once I finish it, I pull it in. So I wanted 0.5 by 0.3. So let's go ahead and make that 0.5 by 0.3. Enter. And then I'm going to drag that in, and I'm going to move it over and replace it until I get to the midpoint. And then I'm going to move it up. And let me zoom in a little bit. Now, what I need to do, this is a kind of a tricky thing, is I have to grab it by this thing here. And I'm going to pull it up until I get to this edge and then snap it to where it says midpoint. And I let go. Once I've snapped it to that midpoint, I can go ahead and use my virtual segment delete, and I can cut that, and there it is. So you got to kind of snap it into position to make that cut. If you just try to eyeball it, it isn't really going to work. So make sure it's snapped to that edge. Let me do that again because that's a common mistake that people make. So let me undo. When you get to this, you go ahead and sort of zoom in a little bit. You're going to grab it by that edge, and you're going to bring it up until it snaps. See, it kind of snaps into position. I'm going to snap it until I get to midpoint and let go. And then I'm going to use my virtual segment delete and cut that. And there it is. Okay, I have to make a little change here. Okay, let's go ahead and work on these sidewalls. So we're going to create a sidewall that looks like that. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and put that back and come to my work page. Let's go ahead and make the side rail. It says the side rails right here. I'll come back to these tabs in a second. The side rail is 7 by 0.25 inches. So let's go ahead and draw a rectangle. Let's make it 7 inches by, actually it's 7 inches up and down this way. So 7 on the bottom and 0.25 inches thin. So there's the side rail. Now we're going to put a tab on each of the side rail, on the top of the side rail, a tab at the middle of the side rail, and a tab at the bottom of the side rail. So the tabs are 0.125 by 0.5. So let's draw a rectangle, and let's make it 0.125 by 0.5, enter. And we need 3 of those. So I'm going to do Control Copy, Control Paste, and pull one kind of down here. And then copy, paste, and put the 3rd one here. All right, now I need to attach each of these tabs to this side rail, one at the top, one at the bottom, and one in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that first one and kind of zoom in here a little bit. And I want to have this be right at the very top. And so I'm going to grab it by this corner here, that corner. I'm going to snap it to the edge until it gets to that node, and I'm going to let go. So there's number 1. And then number 2 is going to go in the middle. So I can come in here. I'm going to grab it by that edge. I'm going to move it until I get to midpoint. There. Oh. Let me grab it by the middle here. There we go. And midpoint it. Snap. There it is. And then the 3rd one is going to go at the bottom. So I'll bring that over. zoom in on a little bit, grab it by that node and snap it to the edge until I get node to node, and there it is. All right, so I have the 3 tabs. Now I'm going to need to copy and paste all 3. So to select all 3 tabs, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I'm going to click on the middle one, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift key again and click on the top one. And now all 3 of them are copied. And then I can do Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, and I can move those over. So I've got a set of tabs that are connected to this, and I've got a set of tabs that are sort of sitting free. And they should be exactly lined up with each other. Exactly the same. I want to take these 3 and select them all. I'm going to group these 3 so that instead of being separate boxes, they're grouped as one unit. So I'm going to go to the Object menu and go to Group and Group Objects. The shortcut is Control-G for Group, but this is one way to do it. So I'll click on Group Objects, and now that is grouped. Okay, I need a second one of those, so I'm going to do Control-Copy, Control-Paste, and I've got a second set of those. All right, now the next step is to cut these edges. So I'm going to go to my Virtual Segment Delete. I'm going to cut that one. I'm going to go down to the middle. I'm going to cut that one. And I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to cut that one. All right. Now that that part is all done, I'm going to group that part. Select that part. Remember, the shortcut is Control-G. Control-G to group it, or you can go to the Object menu and go to Group and click on Group Objects. So that object is grouped. And now I need a second one of the sidewalls, so I'll do Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, and I have the second one. So I've got the 2 side rails, and I've got the slots, or these tabs where they're going to fit in. Okay, so I've got the 3 tabs. They're equally spaced, and I need to make the tabs 0.25 inches from the edge. So we've done that before. So I'm going to go to my set of tabs here, and I'm going to bring it over to this object, and I'm going to place it so it's right up against this edge here. There it is. And then I need to move that over a distance of, what was it again? 0.25 inches from the edge. So I can go ahead and use my measurement here. I go edge to edge and set it. It's set at 0.19. So I can take this group thing and I can move it till it's 0.25. And there it is. So that is 0.25. And let's just check. One of them is all the way at the top. The other one is all the way at the bottom. And this one is in the middle. Cool. So I can delete that dimension line. And I'm going to select that grouped object. I'm going to, actually, I guess I don't need to copy paste it. I've already got it here. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to move them over and do the same thing. So let's get this snapped over here. Oop, there we go. Boom. And then I'm going to move it over, and I want that distance to be 0.25. So 0.34, so I went too far on that one. So let's select this object and move it back till it's 0.25. There we go. Cool. So that is that. We have our tabs. They're equally spaced. We got the side rails. So let's just double check that those side rails are going to fit. Let me delete this dimension line. Hit delete key. All right. Let's see if those side rails fit those tabs. So I'm going to grab one of these side rails. I'm going to place it over here. And I'm just going to kind of zoom in and just kind of make sure that it's going to line up. And it does in the middle, it does at the bottom or the top, and it does at the bottom. So everything lines up just great. So that's cool. So my 2 side rails fit the tabs, and everything looks pretty good. I can move this other one over as well. Kind of place it in there. Okay, cool. Now there's one other thing that you'll notice on mine is I kind of created this curve up at the top, which I think is kind of nice. So let's go ahead and create that curve. The way to create that curve is I'm going to go to my line tool. I'm going to go down to, going to go down to 3-point curve. I'm going to drag all the way from this node straight across to that node. I'm going to let go, move to midpoint, and just kind of go up a little bit, and then set it. Click. And then I can delete that. And now I've kind of got that slight curve, which just gives it a little bit more design, which is kind of nice. All right, so that whole stand part is done. But right now it's still made up of these separate little pieces, which I don't want. I want to group it all. So I'm going to select that whole thing. I'm not going to select the side rails. I'm just going to select the stand part. There we go. And I'm going to Control G to group it. And now this thing is one solid part. And that looks great. Cool. Okay, the only thing that's left right now is this the support. The support is this thing that's got the shelf and then the part that sticks behind it that keeps the stand upright. So let's go ahead and make this support shelf. So let me go back to my thing here. So it says the support is 4 by 2.75 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle that is 4. Oh, I got that right. By 2.75. 2.75, enter. So there is that. And then I need the shelf, which is 2.45 by 1 inch. So let's draw another rectangle. So let's make that 2.45. 2.45 by 1 inch. 1, enter. And this is going to connect here. So I'm going to kind of bring it over. I'm going to get it. I'm going to grab it by the midpoint. Whoops, I'm drawing rectangles to be on my select tool. All right, I'm going to grab by that midpoint, and I'm going to snap it to this edge until I get to midpoint and let go. Now it's midpointed, and now I can delete that segment. Okay, that's good. I've got the support, I got the shelf. I need the cord, the hole for the cord, which is 0.75 by 0.5 inches. So let's go ahead and draw that. 0.75 by 0.5. That's going to create a hole that the charging cord can go through. And this, I'm going to go ahead and just bring it in here, and I'm going to center it in this space. I'm going to grab it by that X. I'm going to bring it around until it snaps to center, and there it is. It's been centered, and so that is where I want it to be. The only difference between this one and this one is I've created this kind of little curve here. And you don't have to do that, but I just think it's kind of a neat design. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of create that curve. So to do that, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to draw an ellipse, kind of like that, maybe. And I'm going to kind of place it in here to that midpoint. And you can kind of decide like what sort of, how much curve you want on that. Oops, struggling with this here. If it's more or less, but I'm going to go just about there. That seems about right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, and I get that shape. So, kind of the size of the circle that you want is really up to you. You can have it a little bit less severe. Maybe you want to have it more like, let me undo this. Maybe you want to have one that's a little bit less, and maybe more kind of this way. So you could grab that, you could center it out. No, that's going to probably be kind of weak. Let's bring that in a little bit. Maybe about there. And then you can try the cuts and see if you like the look of that. So it's kind of up to you how much kind of curve you want out of that. This one's got a bit more, but that looks fine to me. So, cool. So I've got the shelf, and that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. I'm going to place it kind of inside my area, and everything is good. oh, this I want to group, so I'm going to take that part and I'm going to group it, Control G, so it is one solid object. Oh, it's still not a solid object. Let me group it again. Control G. Now it is, yeah, now it's one thing. All right, so that's how you make the basic stand. Just a stand, there's no graphics on it, nothing. It's just kind of the basics, which is fine if you want to do that, but I think it's kind of cool to have designs that are a little bit more interesting. So I'll show you some examples. Of course, one thing you could do, obviously, is just kind of like in the keychain, you could go to Google Images and you could find a black and white image of, you know, something, and you can put it in there and it'll etch it out in the same way that it etched out a design on your keychain. So exactly the same process if you want to just do a black and white etching on the surface of this, which can look great. Some other options are cutting things out. So all I did here is I just basically put some circles, and I just used 0.5 by 0.5, which I think looks pretty good. And I just kind of did rows of circles. And the way I did that was I grabbed one of the circles, or I created a circle. I'll show you. And then I kind of just set it there, and then I just did Control C, Control V, and I arrowed it over until I kind of got a distance that I liked. Copy pasted, arrowed it over till I got another distance. Oops, it's lagging a bit. That I liked. And once I kind of got the distances that I was happy with, and you can use your measuring tool if you want to get them perfect, but once you get that kind of the way you want it, you could copy paste that and just arrow down another set, copy paste, arrow down another set. And so that's all I did there to create these kind of cutouts, which is kind of cool. So that's an option. This design, I basically just did some stars. So instead of circles, I did stars. The stars are located in this polygon tool here. And I used this star, and I kind of went like that. And I just created 3 of them. You can double click on it, and it'll give you these curves, and you can twist it if you want. And so I kind of twisted them off a little bit so they're not all exactly the same, which I think looks kind of cool if one's sort of oriented and twisted slightly differently. So that's what that design is. It's just simple stars that I've kind of rotated a little bit. So easy to make these little cutouts, and they look kind of cool. They look a lot better than sort of this boring basic design. Now, this one, what I did, actually, let's do this one first. So what I did for this one is I went into Google Images, and I found an image for a Nike swoosh, and then I just copied and pasted it into here, and got it to the size that I wanted. And then what I did was I drew lines to create a cutout of this. And to do that, I can show you what to do. This takes some more time, but you have to be, if you're willing to put the time in, it's kind of cool. You're going to do the 2-point line, and basically you just kind of come in here, and you just start tracing your line. So I just went click, click, oopsie, and then sometimes I had trouble with this. Where's that line? And I went click, and I went click, 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 and I just went all the way around this shape, all the way around, and I just kept going and kept going, kept going, and I went all the way, all the way, all the way, click, 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 all the way around, and I joined it back to the starting point. And then I just took this shape and I deleted it. And what I was left with is this outline of the swoosh. And then that outline will cut out. So that's what that is. It's just a click, 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 click outline of the whole swoosh. So that's kind of cool. Let me delete all that. Get back to I'll lose my original swoosh. Okay, so there is that. So that's how I did that. Same thing for this one. I just basically went to Google Images. I got an H, because I just H for Howard, and I got that H, and then I did the same thing. I just went to the line tool, and I just went, click, 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 and I just went all the way, traced all the way around this H, all the way around it until it was completed, and then that's what that is there. So that is how you do things like that. Same thing for this one. I just went to, whoops. I just went to these, I just Google imaged these musical notes. Maybe you have somebody that's really into music, and I just traced around these musical notes with the line tool, and then I deleted the musical notes, and what's left is the cutout, which is kind of cool. So that's how I did, oops, I should try to do that work. So that's how I did these kinds of things like that, and that one's a cutout, that one's in a cutout, like that, and that's easy, and this is easy. So these are the harder ones. You know, you could find any kind of image you like, and the more complicated it is, the harder it is to trace around it. But once you start doing it, it goes pretty good, and you can get some really cool designs. So that is the basic idea of that. Of course, when it's all done and everything's cut out, you're going to select, or everything's finished, your whole design is ready to go to laser. You have to do the same, the red hairline, so you make sure to select everything. Double click on the pen tool, make sure the color is set to RGB, and red is going to go all the way up to 255. This is exactly the same as the keychain, so you've done this before. And then the width has to be hairline, and you hit OK, and then it will cut it out in a little laser. Send it to the laser in the same way that you do with the keychain, to CT student data, period 1, inbox, or whatever, and make sure you put your name on your file, and you will be able to cut out some very cool stuff. And you're going to end up with these really pretty cell phone stands. So that's how you do it. Hopefully that makes sense and works for you. And yeah, good luck with your designing.